Well, it only took me a year, but I finally got around to actually doing a hardware review of the Retron 3, the all-in-wonder clone system that plays NES, Super Nintendo, and Genesis games. I got it for Christmas last year. I did a unboxing, and it took me 12 months, but I'm finally actually getting around to doing a review of what you get with the hardware itself. For those of you who are unfamiliar with how the system works, it's pretty simple. It uses clone software, and you just put in your old NES, Genesis, or Super Nintendo cartridges, and there you go. You can play them on this machine. So this is kind of like a dream console. If you were 8 years old again in the second grade circa 1992, this thing is just mind-blowing. If you're a retro gaming fan, you absolutely pretty much have to own one of these. I've played it for a solid year and I absolutely love it. I really haven't had any major problems with it. And yeah, it's just great. So let's kind of go a little bit more in depth about what you get when you pick up a Retron 3. As you can see here, the system itself is very lightweight, and at first glance it's a little unsightly looking. You can see there it has little onion rings there for the little console holders. So aesthetically it kind of resembles a Nintendo 64, and it feels very lightweight when you pull out of the box, so you're going to kind of think it's very shoddy and very plastic feeling. But it actually holds up pretty well. I've had it for a year, had some spills every now and then. It is actually surprisingly quite durable. Also, with the console, you get your standard AV output, but you also get an S-video output, which is really great because I don't believe the original Genesis actually had the ability to use S-video. So then you go back and play a game like Musha or Gunstar Heroes in S-video the way God intended. You finally have that ability now, so thanks a lot, Retron 3, and all you wonderful guys at Hyperkin. Also, you get a proprietary controller, which is wireless, that is also modeled after the old Sega Genesis Lima Bean controller. In fact, this is actually sort of a replica in some ways of my all-time favorite video game controller for any system, the old 6-button arcade pad for the Genesis. So this thing is absolutely fantastic for going and playing Super Street Fighter 2 and Eternal Champions. So if you want to revisit that, you can do it. As for how the system works exactly, well, it's pretty simple. You have this little dial here, and it allows you to switch back and forth between consoles. So you want to play NES games, you switch to NES, and you can play NES games. Want to play Super Nintendo, you switch to Super Nintendo, Genesis, Genesis. So it's pretty simple. You just put your consoles in, and you get your cartridges, and there you go. That simple. So I know what you're thinking. Does it work? Does it work? Alright, we've got it set on NES. Does it play Super Mario Bros. 3? Well, my goodness, it plays Super Mario Bros. 3. That's pretty great. Another thing that I really like about this thing is it actually does have controller inputs for the original system. So if you want to play Super Mario Bros. 3 using an old school Nintendo controller, you know what? You can do that. You want to play Super Nintendo using an old school Super Nintendo controller? You can do that. In fact, it even supports a lot of the old school peripherals. So if you have the Super Scope 7 out, actually it doesn't work for the system, but if you have it, you can give it a try. There's lots of old school third-party controllers which you can actually use on here, which is pretty cool. I like the old turbo pad for the NES myself. So there you go. It works on NES. I've got about 60 or so games in my collection currently of NES. I'm going to say probably close to about 50 to 55 of them all work. Surprisingly, a pretty huge number of them are all functional with the system, which surprisingly hasn't been the case with a lot of Hyperkin's old consoles, especially their old FC mobile, their Famicom portable unit. So many games didn't work on that one. Of course, I've heard stories about some games not working, but from what I've experienced, yeah, it's actually a pretty good ratio. I think you're going to get most of your games to work on it, including some games that did not work on some of their former Hyperkin units. So that's pretty awesome. As far as recreating console goes, NES, the graphics look great, the sound feels pretty great. All in all, it's not a bad little system there. So, how about Genesis? Does it work? Oh, look at that. Oh my God, it's 1991 all over again. So as you can see, it works very well with Sega Genesis. The graphics look absolutely crisp and stellar. The sound is not as high-pitched as I kind of hoped it would be, which is kind of a shame because Genesis music was just so outstanding. Go back and play Musha, play NHL 93, you're really going to miss it. But other than that, I mean, it feels really great, sturdy, solid replication of the original console. I really have no complaints there whatsoever. So we're going to shut that off real quick. We're going to turn to the SNES, and we're going to play some Madden 94. Clearly the best football game of the 16-bit era, not called Tecmo Super Bowl 3. So, does it work? My goodness, it does. I think probably the most surprising thing about this console to me is the fact that I think the Super Nintendo is actually the best emulator of the three consoles replicated on the console, which is surprising. You kind of think the NES and the Genesis would be a little bit easier to replicate, but
hi everyone, welcome to John Madden Football.
Oh, there you go. Thank you, Mr. Madden. So yeah, you get all that, and surprisingly, the games play quite well. They play incredibly similar, if not identical, to the original console games. Once again, you know, I can't really give you an accurate assessment of just how many of the cartridges work on the machine. I'm sure you can go online and figure it out for yourself, but just for my collection, pretty much a good 85% maybe in that range of my games all worked on it, and I really haven't had any sort of a technical hiccup since. So as far as my overall impression of the console, I think it's actually pretty darn awesome. Not every game works, and it would be a little bit more awesome if some of the emulation sounds on the Genesis and NES were better, but beyond that, you know, it's just great. It's a if you're an 8-year-old kid in 1992, this is just an absolute, like, genie's wish come true. So there you go, Retron 3. I've had it for a year. I've been playing it. This is a testimonial of sorts. It's really fun, and here they have a Retron 5 coming out now, which plays Game Boy games. So there you go. You can probably get this really cheap now because you have the new unit coming out. I think you can go on Amazon and get them for like $50, or even better yet, go into a specialized game shop and you can probably get them even cheaper. So all in all, Retron 3 I think is just stellar. It's spectacular, and if you're an old school gaming fan, you know, you probably need to pick one up.